What is the crack, everyone? It's Nathan here, aka the Rambling Kern, and head instructor of Kern School of Combat. So today's video is all about gripping a shillelagh, how and why we grip it in the way that we do. Now, if you're interested in more of my work, in getting weekly videos from me, or doing online lessons with me, or doing in-person lessons, you'll find links in the description to my Patreon, where you can sponsor me for as little or as much as you want, and links to my class that I run every week in South Dublin. So, onto the video itself. So recently in a Facebook post, there was a discussion about the types of grips used in Irish stick fighting and the hows and whys of it. And I wanted to kind of address that. Now, I have a video, which you'll find on my channel, basically on how to swing a shillelagh. Some of the things that you'll find common to both of the styles that I teach, the Antrim style and the Doyle style. Now, the one thing that is similar in both of these, and one thing that seems to be a kind of golden rule across all of Irish stick fighting, all the references I've seen and all the artwork I've seen of actual people fighting with shillelaghs, the one thing you will see is a thumb up grip. So this is often referred to as a saber grip. So for those who don't know, you grip your stick, you put your thumb on top. For a lot of people, this is a very strange thing to get used to, and it seems like quite a weak grip. And it seems like that, but it's not. Now, the question on this post was someone took a picture and they were using a hammer grip, which is this, where you have this kind of classic balled up fist grip. Now, this is something we do see in some artworks, but artwork is not necessarily always reliable. But in all of our references, as well as the surviving Irish stick styles we have, as well as the manuals that we have, one thing you pretty much universally see in Irish stick fighting, which is one of the real go-to kind of classic hallmarks of it, is this thumb up grip. But there's important details around this thumb up grip that I think people who are not familiar with Irish stick fighting, or just stick fighting in general, wouldn't really be very used to. So, some of these things are that the way that we grip requires a stick that is not overly large. I've done many videos on the fact that most people, when they look at sticks or clubs, they go way too heavy with it. One of the big things that's very important with a stick is you should be able to close your fingers around the stick. If the stick is in any way big, let's say I have quite a large chunky stick, you're not going to be able to do that. In which case, if the stick gets hit laterally like this, it's going to go flying in your hand. So that is a very important thing to consider when you are sizing up a stick or buying a new stick. The other thing is that the motion that we use, which I did discuss in my How to Swing a Shillelagh video, is basically using our thumb and pinky to do a lot of forward momentum in the stick. Now, this is not to say it is a weak flick, it is saying we are using that at the end of our power to generate even more whip into the stick. I'll discuss that in a second because there's important details around that I think a lot of people miss and don't practice or just are not familiar with. But I digress. One of the big things that you'll see in a lot of styles is this hammer grip. This is generally the preferred grip for most people. Now, I've discussed this before, but one of the big things that sets Irish stick fighting apart from a lot of other stick styles in the world is that first and foremost, it is a stick style first. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that the stick is not a proxy for anything else. This is not a proxy for a knife or a sword or a machete or anything like that. A lot of other arts use sticks as a proxy for other weapons, obviously because it's safer, it's cheaper, so on and so forth. But in Irish stick fighting, we use other stick proxies for sticks because it is first and foremost a stick art. Another very important thing to consider with Irish stick fighting is that it was made for mass group combat. Now, this sets it apart from a lot of other stick styles, especially sort of self-defense based stick styles, where often you want a large whirling motion to keep people away from you. If I have a friend here and here, and I do a large twirling motion, I'm going to hit him in the face or in the body or somewhere else. And the same with this guy. If I do big massive wind-ups, I'm probably going to hit my friend here. As well as that, if I overswing, especially if I'm stepping forward into an oncoming group where you, the viewer, is, I'm going to extend into that, putting myself in a very bad spot. So the one quite unique aspect of both styles, with both how they grip and how they throw their strikes out, is that it is quite a whipping motion. Now you're turning the body, you're using momentum, and you're using your body itself to add more power into that, just like you would do making a saber cut or other similar motions. Now, one of the reasons for that is because if I take a standard hammer grip with a stick like this and I swing, one of two things tends to happen, right? Generally, when you swing like that, you want to swing down and across the body, similar to how you swing a hammer. If anyone's ever done blacksmithing before, I've done a little bit way back when, generally you want to swing, and your swing just kind of naturally finishes at the waist. If anyone's ever hammered a piece of wood, you understand that. If I swing a stick, notice that it wants to keep going, and I either have to tilt my wrist forward in order to accommodate that, or I have to stop it and the stick will kind of continue somewhat. Now if I overswing at times, that can put either my wrist in a compromised position or my elbow in a compromised position. If I straighten my arm out and that continues, it can put me in a bit of a bad spot. Now the beauty of this thumb up grip is it allows for a very quick control in this, and you can see the stick returns back to where I want. So it means if I overswing, I can pull the stick back to where I need it. And I'm also not risking overswinging into the person next to me. So this is one of the very unique and important aspects of the grip that we use in Irish stick fighting. That's why you do see the thumb up grip. Now these aren't definitive reasons, these are just kind of conclusions I've come to. But it does very much allow for a much more controlled use of this forward weighted object. Now, obviously, like I mentioned, you do see this in saber, which is a somewhat forward weighted sword, hence the term saber grip. And you do see it in a handful of other stick fighting arts. Primarily, the one art that I've seen it in the most is in Zulu stick fighting. Now, I am by no means a aficionado in this, but you do see it in quite a few pictures, and I'm going to bring some up. And the oldest picture I could find of Zulu-based stick fighting, now they use I believe it's called a knob curry, which is very similar in shape and design to a shillelagh. And also, most of what they're doing is group combat. So it is a knob stick, a forward-loaded stick, and you will often see that thumb-up grip being used, even though they're grabbing right at the end, unlike the methods that you see with a lot of Irish sticks, where we take this third grip. Now, I find this quite fascinating because it is a very interesting parallel to see a living lineage of a stick style where this is the norm. Now, obviously, you'll find other pictures of people not doing it, but there's enough for me to think that it is a common enough practice to use the thumb on. You do also see it in a number of French cane styles. Now, that, you can say what you want about it, because a lot of the people doing those cane styles at the time obviously would have had a background in military saber and other similar arts. But it's just a interesting little nuance around Irish stick fighting that I think a lot of people aren't used to and don't really understand the reason for this sort of method and why we do it the way that we do it. A lot of people think that you don't get a lot of power out of it. You'd be really surprised the amount of power that you can generate. It just takes a fair bit of practice. It's not something that you'll gravitate towards, but it is far more controllable with one of these sticks rather than our standard hammer grip, where you do tend to overswing and you do tend to do large circular motions, which really is not something that you see bar a handful of instances in traditional Irish stick fighting styles. So I think it's a very, very important thing to address how these sticks are gripped and why they're gripped in the way that they are, because it really is a core tenet of Irish stick fighting. Now, like I said, it's generally this thumb up grip, and you'll see a particular way of sending out strikes in the Doyle style. You'll see a particular way of sending out strikes in the Antrim style, but this is the core tenet of each, that you have this thumb up grip. Like I said, it offers a lot of very unique aspects into how we swing the stick. The best explanation I've ever had was from Maxime, the head of the Antrim style, who basically explained it as far similar to throwing than it is to swinging. I'm actually going to bring up the phases of throwing. This is a nice little diagram I found earlier today while researching this video. You'll see with this sort of stick style, and you'll see this in sparring footage of myself and my group, generally it's loading from the shoulder, twisting, rotating in and extending the shoulder forward. This gets you far more range than you would if you were to do a hammer grip. Now, obviously, swinging a club or a bat, similar to a baseball. The phases of swinging that are a different thing again. But one of the major things you want to do with Irish stick fighting is not get into that no man's land. This is a thing that happens in a one-on-one stick fight. There is a certain ground, similar to boxing, where you stand and trade, and it's not the best place to be because that's where you're going to get hurt. So, as you can see, the motions used for Irish stick fighting and the way that the sticks are swung are far more akin to a throwing motion than a cutting or a chopping motion. Something that you see in a lot of other stick arts that are based around the use of these sort of weapons. So it makes the way that we use and hold a shillelagh very unique and very different to other stick arts. And it's a very, very important aspect of Irish stick fighting to understand. Because if you understand the grip and how and why it's used, I think it's very fundamental to how you will view the weapon. So like I said, hammer grip, not really something I've seen used. Both of the traditional styles rely on this thumb up grip, but there is very important nuances to doing it and doing it properly that I think people do struggle with. Like I said, it's far more of a throwing motion. Some of the best people I've ever seen naturally get this motion well are people who are used to fly fishing, a very similar motion, twisting the body out, whipping the arm out and returning back. Or people who've used a whip in the past. It is quite a strange motion. It is quite a strange motion to get used to, but it is fundamental to Irish stick fighting, and it will make your stick fighting in general better if you learn how to understand it. It will also make the use of these much easier. If anyone has any background in Zulu stick fighting or knows anything more about that, please do let me know. I'd love to learn a little bit about it, especially since the sticks are so similar, and especially since they have a living lineage and an ongoing tradition. It's definitely something I'd really, really love to learn more about. Thank you all so much for watching. I know this video was a bit of a ramble, but I just thought it was an interesting topic to discuss. If you guys have any more questions about Irish stick fighting or any topics in general related to Irish history or Irish martial arts, please do let me know. And like I said, if you wish to join the Patreon, you'll find it down in the description. If you want to join classes, you'll find the same. Thank you all oh so very much for watching. We're closing in on that 5,000 mark. I want to try hit it before Christmas, so if you haven't already, I know about 70% of you haven't, please subscribe. It really, really does help me out. Thank you so very much for watching, and slán.